The Queen Times. Secrets in the Ink of a Nation. Ink of a Nation. Part 1. Bylines and Bloodlines. Chapter 1. Welcome to the Queen Times. The building looked like it had been built to withstand coups, hurricanes, and headlines. 4 stories of reinforced limestone and smoked glass. The Queen Times headquarters sat like a fortress in the heart of Sydney. Fortified, immaculate, untouchable. Harper Quinn stood outside its revolving doors, clutching her press ID like a passport to another world. The laminated badge bore her name in bold sans serif, the paper's iconic crown logo above it, embossed in gold. A security guard barely glanced at her before waving her through. That was the first red flag. Inside, the newsroom pulsed with low murmurs, the whir of old printers, and the clack of relentless keyboards. Screens flickered with news feeds from around the country. Flat whites were being gulped down like adrenaline shots. Everyone moved fast, but with a practiced choreography that made Harper feel instantly slow. She had imagined more ceremony to her first day. A welcome, a tour. Instead, an editor she'd never met shoved a manila folder into her hands and said, "Welcome to the monarchy. You're on page 7. Lifestyle. Deadline's in 3 hours. Don't screw it up." Then he walked away. No handshake, no briefing, just a folder and a warning. Harper found an empty desk between a sports reporter arguing about footy corruption and an intern Googling how to spell sovereign. The Queen Times wasn't just Australia's largest newspaper, it was its loudest. It had shaped governments, toppled ministers, and even influenced a royal visit cancellation in the 90s. To many, it was the 4th branch of power. To others, it was the quiet 5th, the one no one elected, but everyone feared. She opened the folder. Inside, a short assignment on an upcoming royal charity gala. Word count 700. Tone, respectful but cheeky. Quote the Duchess if possible. Emphasize continuity. Do not mention the Republic referendum, the editor had scrawled in red ink. Harper frowned. That last line wasn't even part of the story brief. It was preventative censorship. She looked up, wondering who else was being muzzled in real time. A voice behind her answered without being asked. First time getting a red ink directive? She turned. The man was in his 40s, disheveled in a way that suggested he'd been up all night fact-checking things no one would ever publish. His lanyard said Theo Marsh Features. Yeah, Harper admitted. Didn't know we were doing preemptive edits for stuff not even in the story. Theo smirked. Oh, we do a lot of things not in the story. He walked away before she could ask more. At 2:58 p.m., Harper submitted her piece. At 3:07 p.m., it was published online, under someone else's name. She stared at the screen. The byline read L. Yates, a senior columnist known for writing puff pieces about royal fashion and 5-star hotel reviews. The body of the article was unchanged. Word for word, it was Harper's. She stood, stunned. Around her, no one looked surprised. Across the room, L. Yates was sipping espresso and flirting with a junior producer, unconcerned. She approached Theo. Someone just stole my article. He didn't look up. No, they gave it a name the readers trust. That's fraud. He gave a small shrug. It's Tuesday. That night, she stayed late. Something was wrong with this place. She wandered through the newsroom's quiet halls and ended up near the archive, an old, humidity-controlled room most reporters avoided unless threatened with retirement. The door was open. Inside, dusty files lined rolling shelves. No computers, just boxes. She wandered past clippings from the 70s, then found a drawer labeled Whistleblowers, suppressed. Her pulse ticked upward. She slid the drawer open. Dozens of yellowing folders, some stamped Never Publish, some marked with red crown seals. She opened one, a 1993 expose about a royal family investment scandal involving offshore accounts and uranium leases. Killed. Another. A suppressed interview with a former governor general who claimed the palace had influenced a no-confidence vote. Each story had a note paper-clipped on top. The same initials signed every one, RM, Rupert Marlowe, the paper's current CEO. She closed the drawer and stepped back into the dim corridor, suddenly feeling watched. In the reflection of the glass panel, a shape moved. She turned. Nothing. Just a dim hallway and the faint buzz of the only newsroom light left on. At 11:43 p.m., Harper opened her notes and started typing what wouldn't run on page 7, or any page. The Queen Times is not just Australia's most powerful newspaper. It is a vault, a throne room, a weapon. She saved the file under a single word, coronet. Then she shut down the computer, slipped her badge into her pocket, and walked into the night. She didn't know it yet, but someone had already printed her draft, and someone else had already started watching her. Chapter 2. News fit for a crown. The headline read, "Her Majesty's quiet strength inspires a nation." Harper stared at the screen. She hadn't written that. Her original title, A Monarch in Transition, Australia's Complex Relationship with the Crown. In the space of 24 hours, her balanced cultural piece had been recast into something just short of a royal press release. Quotes were trimmed. Questions were erased. The entire second half, where she'd highlighted Aboriginal leaders calling for constitutional change, was missing. She took the stairs 2 at a time up to editorial. Rupert Marlowe's office was at the top floor, walled with bulletproof glass and drenched in too much polished mahogany. Harper didn't knock. She went to Theo Marsh instead. "Did you see what they did to my piece?" Theo didn't look up. "You'll need to be more specific. They do a lot. The one about the Queen's speech, it's propaganda now." He gave a small, tired smile. "Then it's working." Before she could explode, someone called her name. Loudly. It was Lorraine Gale, deputy managing editor. Blazer, power heels, teeth sharp enough to cut paper. "Quinn, upstairs, now." The office was dark wood and old money. Lorraine sat behind a desk with nothing on it but a Royal Doulton mug and a thick printed proof of Harper's article. Someone had annotated it in red marker, slashing through entire paragraphs and replacing them with phrases like "stabilizing presence" and "symbol of generational continuity." "Harper," Lorraine began, "this is a public-facing article on a national figurehead. It needs to land well." Harper kept her voice calm. "I didn't realize public-facing meant revisionist. You're young. You'll learn. This paper has a responsibility to balance truth with reverence." Harper raised an eyebrow. "Reverence isn't journalism." Lorraine leaned forward. "It is when you're writing about the Queen." There was silence. The air smelled like aged varnish and politics. Then Lorraine spoke again, slower. "We're not here to provoke the Republicans. The public doesn't want complexity. They want comfort. Even if it's a lie?" Lorraine's eyes hardened. "Especially if it's a lie that keeps things peaceful." Back at her desk, Harper sat in silence for several minutes. The new version of her article was climbing the paper's internal trending dashboard. The word grace was now the most repeated term in the piece, used 5 times, all in sentences she hadn't written. In her inbox was a message from legal. Routine compliance sign-off. Attached was a non-disclosure waiver. It read, "By continuing under editorial review, you acknowledge that final phrasing reflects institutional alignment, and that any deviation from approved language shall be regarded as internal breach." She scrolled down and found a list of sensitive terms to avoid when referring to the monarchy. Among them, colonial legacy, Republican movement, media independence, Governor General controversy. The list wasn't official government guidance. It was internal, created and distributed by the Queen Times itself. Harper stood. "Where are you going?" Theo asked. "To ask someone why a newspaper has a vocabulary blacklist." "You don't want that answer," he replied, but she walked off anyway. She found a break room that smelled like burnt toast and burnt-out optimism. A single man sat reading a printout in silence. Harper recognized him. Jasper Wills, a senior columnist whose name had headlined a dozen royal pieces over the years. He looked up when she entered. "You wrote the original draft," he said, not asking. "Yes." He folded the printout. "You're good. Too good. That's your problem." "Why did they gut it?" He paused. Then, "You know what a loyalty clause is?" "No." He reached into his drawer and pulled out a yellowed copy of an internal policy binder. He flipped to a section marked Press Royal Protocol. She read the line, "All coverage pertaining to the sovereign or royal institution must reflect a tone of national cohesion, moral stability, and enduring trust. Disruptive perspectives shall be rebalanced by editorial authority." Harper exhaled slowly. "That's not journalism. That's monarchy-sponsored messaging." "It's both," Jasper said. "It always has been." That night, Harper returned to her flat in Newtown and opened her laptop. She searched the Queen Times archives, some public, some accessed through a backdoor Theo had once shown her. She typed in, "Articles modified post-publication, Monarch plus edited." Hundreds of entries came up, all with red flag indicators. Changes made not for accuracy, but for alignment. She clicked through a few. The pattern was unmistakable. Every time the monarchy was at the center of controversy, a royal cousin arrested, a leaked finance report, a controversial speech, there were stealth revisions, phrases toned down, context stripped, headlines softened. She opened one from 2002, an op-ed questioning Australia's role as a constitutional monarchy following the Queen's absence during a wildfire crisis. The original piece asked, "Where is the head of state when we burn?" The revised version read, "Her Majesty's quiet strength calms the nation as firefighters hold the line." Different author, same byline, a lie with the same ink. At 2:11 a.m., Harper typed a new note into her private file. "We don't write the truth, we polish the crown." Then she logged off. Outside her window, Sydney's skyline glowed quietly beneath a curtain of carefully curated news. Somewhere inside the Queen Times building, someone was watching her file activity. The headline had landed well, and so had she, in the crosshairs. Chapter 3. The Story That Disappeared. The story came to her in pieces. One leaked file, one hushed phone call, one accidental reply-all email that should never have reached her inbox. Began with a funeral. Dr. Miriam Lennox, a former deputy director of communications for the Governor General, had died under what the Queen Times called natural causes. She was 62, retired, and buried with minimal press attention. Harper barely glanced at the two-paragraph obit in the back of the paper. Then she got the email. Subject line, "Read Gigi speech, Lennox files, don't use." From a junior copy editor who'd clicked the wrong contact. Attachment, a zip folder titled Lennox Gigi 2004 Drafts. Harper opened it. Inside, a draft speech addressed to the Queen, not by the Prime Minister, but by the Governor General's office. The tone was obsequious. "Your Majesty's subtle influence remains essential to maintaining a favorable media climate." It read like a memo, not a speech, not for public ears. And then, the closer. Per protocol, the Queen Times shall release a piece in alignment with this message concurrent to your recorded statement, and shall not include any reference to historical involvement in the 1975 dismissal. Draft attached. Harper's blood turned cold. The 1975 dismissal, when Australia's Prime Minister was controversially removed by the Governor-General, remained one of the most debated events in the nation's political history. Publicly, the monarchy's role had always been described as symbolic, passive, and uninvolved. But here was language, years later, confirming coordination between the monarchy, the Governor-General, and the press. Backroom alliance. A cover-up. A media manipulation legacy still intact. She had her story. By morning, Harper had corroborated the speech drafts with two off-the-record sources. One, a retired press secretary who refused to be quoted. The other, an anonymous legal advisor who confirmed the file's authenticity and said, "I've seen the original." It was marked with a red crown seal. She called Theo. "You won't believe what just fell into my inbox." He listened, quietly. When she finished, he said only, "Print it, now, before they take it back." She filed the story to editorial under the headline, "Buried Allegiance. New documents suggest media monarchy packed post-dismissal." She gave it context. Cited legal experts. Included anonymized quotes. It was airtight, powerful, and dangerous. By noon, it had been approved by the night editor. By 4 p.m., it vanished. The first clue was silence. Usually, when a story like that moved toward publication, the newsroom buzzed. Editors debated. Lawyers got nervous. Phones rang. Harper's inbox stayed empty. She logged into the content system. The draft was gone. The file no longer existed under her name or the backup system. She checked with Theo. He searched from his terminal. Nothing. At 4:32 p.m., Harper stormed into Lorraine Gale's office. "Where is my story?" Lorraine didn't look up. She was reading a draft about a royal charity event in Perth. "I don't know what you mean." "The Lennox files. The Monarchy Pact. The speech drafts. I submitted it this morning. It was approved. Now it's gone." Lorraine closed the laptop softly. "You're not cleared for that tier of reporting." "Tiers? This isn't a government agency. It's a newspaper." She stood. "No, Harper, it's this newspaper." She walked to the window and stared out over the city. "You're smart. That's your biggest liability. But if you're going to survive here, you need to understand that some stories are too big for you. Too old. Too laced in blood and history. Harper stepped forward. It was real. I believe you. Then why bury it? Lorraine turned. Because that story isn't just about Lennox or 2004. It's about 1975 and 1788, and the people who still sign our checks. You want to print a story that says the Queen orchestrated a media partnership to protect her influence after one of the most controversial acts in our political history? Yes. Then you'll lose your job, and probably more than that. She returned to her desk. Her login no longer worked. Theo walked past. His face was pale. They pulled your clearance, he whispered. How? Someone from Executive Suite called down. Use the words National Continuity Clause. That's not editorial policy. That's deeper. She turned to him. What is this place? He didn't answer. Instead, he handed her a sticky note with a name written in blue ink. Aliyah Singh. She used to work for Parliament. Went dark 6 years ago after leaking a transcript no one ever found. She might have more on Lennox. More than we do. Harper took the note. Her hands trembled. Not from fear. From fury. They can kill a story, she said, but they can't kill the truth. Theo gave a hollow laugh. They don't have to. They just make sure it's never read. That night, Harper pulled up her private cloud backup, the one she never mentioned in her HR paperwork. Her original draft was still there. She read it again. It still shook her, not just because of what it revealed, but because of what it meant. If the Queen Times had been complicit in shaping the country's narrative for decades, then every election, every protest, every rising Republican movement had been blunted by a quiet editorial sleight of hand. A journalist was supposed to shine light on hidden truths, but here she was discovering something worse than corruption. She was discovering the architecture of illusion. She saved the file to a hidden drive, then encrypted it, then printed a single hard copy and placed it in a sealed envelope marked only with a word: reprint. Tomorrow she would start digging again, but tonight, the only thing that made sense was her private headline, the one no one else would see. The Queen Times killed the truth before it was born.